The weirdest, but also maybe one of the most fun moments at the White House Correspondents Association dinner came when President Obama was doing his mock Richard Sherman rant and used me as the guy giving him guff, which honestly, as a White House correspondent, you're supposed to be challenging the president. So that was fun and something of an honor.
Seattle Seahawk cornerback Richard Sherman is here tonight, and he gave me some great tips on how to handle it. Jake Tapper, don't you ever talk about me like that. I'm the best president in the game. What do you think, Richard? Was that good? A little more feeling next time?
And Jake Tapper will continue to put the heat on politicians as the new host of CNN's State of the Union. Guys, welcome back to our special coverage of the White House Correspondents' Dinner here as we await hearing from President Obama and seeing how funny he is this year and who his jokes are pointed at this year. Errol Lewis, to you, what do you think the president will open up with this year, and what do you think he should focus on?
Well, I think he should. When I was there, the last time I was in 09, the points where I thought really went beyond the expected jokes, the political jokes, was when he took some real digs at the press, not over their coverage, but over things like, falling viewership, stuff like that, which really didn't go over all that well. I mean, it gets back to what you're supposed to do. This is one of these rare moments where you can really sort of stick the knife in and say some things that you wouldn't normally be able to say as president, in the course of normal conversation. And I thought it got a real sort of ruffle throughout the crowd. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Oh yeah, that's not funny, right?"
As DL says, you want to make him a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. This is taking longer than the Bruce Jenner press conference last night. This is what are we?
Press conference. It was a 2-hour special last night.
No, I think, to me, I love the idea, and I think that even you alluded to this. I love the idea of somebody taking a snapshot of what's really happening and showing it for people to see, because I know we've said this ad nauseum, but as we're waiting for the president and the event to start, we know that what's going on in Baltimore, and I really think that that's a place where a lot of people in the country really are concerned about.
Absolutely. Laurie, let's talk about it. I mean, you're watching what people are saying on social media.
Yeah, it's interesting because much of the conversation is, talking about, hey, everyone's whining and dining, and this is happening 50, 60 miles away. So you can't ignore that. And you know that there's so much tension happening over there, and you have so many influential people in this room. So I would love nothing more than maybe for President Obama to say something about that. Maybe call everyone out and say we should be.
Well, especially after, in the Baltimore situation, the death of Freddie Gray, and you had yesterday the police chief of Baltimore coming out and saying he didn't get the medical attention he should have gotten when he should have gotten it. And you have people incredibly angry at that as well. Tara, how do you think that should be addressed if it is addressed tonight? And do you agree with DL?
Well, I don't think it will be addressed tonight, because that's not what tonight is supposed to be about. And if the president injects that level of politics into this, I think that
how is that politics?
I don't think
well, no, I mean, it's a local issue right now, and it's something that I think that they still, it's an ongoing investigation. There's still, every time the president injects himself into these kinds of things, it usually comes back to haunt him. So I think tonight they probably want to play it safe with that, wait to see what's going on, and I'm sure he will address it later. But I don't think that they will address that tonight.
But Patrick, to you, I would just say it. Baltimore, it's not really a local issue, right? You're talking about from Ferguson on, Staten Island, Eric Garner.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as he was saying earlier, I think he'll address it in the end. But if I can make sort of a different point just on the idea of media coverage, and I'll just continue playing my role as sort of the skunk at the garden party tonight. So
you're not a skunk.
I know. So, but I will say, I mean, and I'll probably get kicked off set for saying this, but we can't. I think we have to admit that we're sort of part of the problem here. If we're saying that this weekend isn't about White House correspondents, isn't about scholarships, they've been talking about that stuff on stage for the past hour. They've been giving away scholarships. We haven't covered that.
Right.
Now, I understand why. I'm sure that viewers might tune out. I mean, that's maybe the sad reality of it. But, I think during one of the commercials break, Christy Parsons, the head of the association, was talking about a Washington Post reporter who's currently imprisoned in Iran right now. These are important issues that we should be paying more attention to.
So two things. So we are talking about it.
Yep.
But I hear your point. Absolutely, and you address it well in your documentary. And we as you mentioned with the Washington Post, they have a hashtag going Free Jason, and pins they're pointing out because their bureau chief in Tehran has been in prison for months on end now, for months not even knowing the charges against him. So they're doing it in that way. Is it better to, are you saying not cover it at all? Should we not be here covering this at all?
And I'm not saying that with CNN because I guarantee you if you were to flip the table or flip the channels, I'm sure everybody else is skipping the scholarship program. They're just waiting for the president to come on. Besides C-SPAN.
That's right. C-SPAN is airing it all.
But I think if we do want to become part of the solution, Christy Parsons, I imagine, was giving a very eloquent speech.
The head of the White House Correspondents Association.
I know she was planning on making a very eloquent remarks about the importance of White House correspondence, about the difficulties of access in the administration. These are things the American people, I think, need to know about. And so I would encourage any network, not just CNN, to maybe turn the cameras on for that. So don't kick me off set. Sorry.
We can always do it next year. My executive producer will love it if I promise you that we're going to play that in full next year. No, but you do have to walk the line.
You have touched on that, and you have pushed back with the people who were either in the administration or former administration officials about that lack of access. And I think that that's something that cannot go without being discussed. I mean, we were talking during the break about how it's traditional for imagery to be controlled, but not like the way it is here at this administration. I mean, they put journalists. That's Major Garrett, right?
Yeah, from CBS.
Significant national or regional nature.
We're still showing our viewers, just we're looking at some of the awards that are being handed out tonight to fellow journalists. My colleague Breonna Keeler got one of these awards last year, and we're waiting for the president to speak. Laurie, do you think that the average viewer, as you monitor what they're talking about on social media, do they even know that this is a dinner about access for journalists?
No. I do not believe that they do know that. I don't mean to be kind of the bearer of bad news, but I guess that's why we...
Got a skunk and a bear.
No, but we got a skunk and a bear, and I'm just trying to control them.
But that's why we talk about it, right? And that's why we raise awareness for this kind of thing. And, we talk a little bit about online and controlling the message and how that's been bad. But, looking at Twitter now and being able to see if people are angry about something and they're beginning to talk about it, it's beginning to go viral. That's the power of social media, which is really interesting. And, even as a journalist, you can utilize these kind of tools and something really interesting and great can happen. So I think that people they might not know that this event is for this, but they can certainly learn about it. We can certainly talk about it, and it's a fun event, and there are lots of, great content coming out of it.
I think that the press is very important, obviously, and it is a tenet of American life. But I think the only reason that politics matter to people is how it affects their life. And there's not a more stark example, and I at the risk of sounding, you've been a skunk, you've been a bear, I guess I'll be the black cat in the ring. But there's not a more stark example of how people can affect people's lives. When you watch these things as a black man who has a black son who might potentially get stopped by the police officer, I don't see it as a local issue. I think it as a national issue, even if the perception by one community that is rampant and one that it isn't. I think that these are the time. These specifically are what politicians are there to do, is to provide, is to give. Is to have an impact on people's lives. And to me, to watch these things happen over and over again and to see nothing significant come from it, and to have people who are in a position to say something about it, not, especially at a time when everybody's looking at it, particularly the press, is to me a failing on what this event
I wouldn't beat up on ourselves too much about this. I mean, this is always about choices, right? I mean, you have to make a decision. What are you going to do with this 2 hours of time? And CNN made its decisions and it's sticking to its plan and so forth. If people want to know, yes, 12 people were arrested. The Baltimore police have tweeted that. You can find that out now. You can find a live feed if you actually want to watch what's going on. It sounds like complete chaos. The cops apparently are keeping people in Camden Yards where the Orioles game is winding down. They don't want more people going into the streets.
We don't have that confirmed right now.
No, none of this is confirmed, but this is all what I'm seeing on Twitter. And so you can find out, what you want to find out. And, and something else is going on. The most powerful man in the world is going to tell some jokes. Now, that's an odd sort of set of circumstances, but it was an odd set of circumstances when he told jokes on the same day that they were killing bin Laden.
We didn't know that.
We don't control a lot of this stuff. We sort of make our best choices, and we'll catch up. People will be informed. They'll find out all about the scholarship winners. They'll find out all of what happened in the streets of Baltimore by this time tomorrow.
We're continuing to watch some of these scholarship winners who are getting their awards, and we're waiting for the president to speak. I'd like to get your take, Patrick, before we do hear from the president, on what the year has been like for you making this documentary. I don't know if we have any clips of it that we can show as we talk, but what has it been like for you? You went to this, and you criticized yourself for asking really lame questions.
Yes.
And not being the journalist that you were proud to be at this event.
Right.
So what sparked you to make the documentary, and what was the process like in terms of the access to cover it?
Well, I decided to do it because I don't know if most Americans know, but this is Washington's biggest event every year, which always struck me as odd because, it's a town built on representing others, built on civic mindedness, and yet you probably don't see that right now on the TV screen. I mean, that's an event about self-celebration, not about celebrating people around the country. For me, the thing that I really took away from it was there is this attitude in Washington to my movie, but also to this event. Most people in D.C. would tell you, yeah, it's a bit over the top, and yeah, it doesn't necessarily reflect that well on us, but it's just a dinner. Who cares? You're sort of overanalyzing it. And that, to me, is a very big problem. I mean, Washington, D.C., reporters and journalists alike have a 10% approval rating. So we're not in a position to start not caring about our biggest moment every year reflecting poorly on us. If we're ever going to get that approval rating up, if we're ever going to get the respect of Americans, we have to have our biggest moments every year reflect well on us, to be about serving others, not serving ourselves, and doing well by others instead of doing well by ourselves.
And so let's listen in.
Yes.
Hold that thought. Let's listen to Chrissy Parsons, the head of the White House Correspondents Association, about to introduce the president.
Until tonight. Mr. President, we appreciate your presence here, and we recognize it as your affirmation of the importance of the free and adversarial press. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me. Raise a glass in a toast to the President of the United States of America. The podium is yours.